What's up, my juicy gamers? It's Juicer here in the top right corner of your screen. Not the normal place that I'm at, but today we're doing something a little bit different. It is a tier list. And this is a tier list that I've been actually thinking about for quite a bit. The tier list that I'm going to be going over are all of the Hogwarts Legacy spells for combat. I need to emphasize that this is for combat. And obviously you can see that there are a few spells on here, namely altering, I can't remember what that one's called right now, conjuring, that are just not applicable for combat. So I'm going to be putting them in the NA tier just to start out, make everything pretty obvious. Lumos, Reparo, all of the beast stuff goes all in NA. What else? Those are fine. You may be wondering why I'm keeping this here. I'll definitely tell you that later on in the video. Obviously all of these. Alohomora, no. Ancient Magic, yes. All of these, yes. I have a Google sheet that I made on my other monitor, so if you catch me looking over that way, I'm just checking out the monitor. Here we go. I'm gonna get into it right now. I have all the spells grouped up in categories, so I'll be going along the categories and going all the way to the end to the evil curses. Before I get into this, I'm going to assume that you have gotten all of the talents that are related to boosting all of these spells. Obviously, some of them are more accessible later in the game as they're level 22 required. However, at this point in the game, I'm max level, and these are the spells that I'm playing with max level wise, and I have basically all the combat talents upgraded. Okay, so first, I'm going to go with Accio. Accio is the most powerful of the 4 spells. I'm going to put it in A to start with. On my list, there are 9 different enemies that have some sort of weakness to Accio. That's a pretty high number and not something that you're going to find all the time with every spell. So right now, Accio is going to go in A. I'm doing this on the fly, so I may change my mind in the middle and change some stuff up. Also, if you completely disagree or completely agree with the list that I come up with, please let me know what you thought was better, thought was worse. Send me your tier lists. I would love to see them. Descendo. Descendo, my initial thought is to put it in C. I very rarely use Descendo, other than when it was prompted for me to do as a battle feat. Descendo has 4 different enemies that I have found so far that have a weakness to it, and most of them are spiders. Spiders, trolls, and dugbogs, and the spells that they're weak against will be weighted a little bit differently than the spells that are good against the enemies that you encounter throughout the whole game, which are the loyalists, the poachers, and the ashwinders. I'm feeling Descendo sitting in C. It's just one of the weaker spells in terms of the force category. And in general, I very rarely use it. I used Accio, Depulso, and Flipendo quite a bit more than I used Descendo. Depulso I'm going to put in B for right now. It's a little bit worse than Accio because it only really has 2 enemies who have a defined weakness to Depulso. However, it's much better than Descendo because first off, you can knock people away from you, which is huge if you have too many people around you. It also can push people off cliffs, which is quite fun and usually kills the character. So for me, Depulso has to fit in B here. Flipendo, I'm gonna put it in B as well. It's definitely better than Descendo. It has quite a good use against trolls. When they smash their hammers into the ground, you can use Flipendo and it smacks the hammer into them and does quite a bit of damage. So I definitely think it's better than Descendo, but Flipendo in combat didn't really do that much damage other than for the troll fights. Flipendo can also be used against certain spiders, and it does quite a bit of damage to them. So low-ish B for Flipendo. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the utility spells. The Disillusionment spell is by itself should kind of be an NA. However, Petrificus Totalis, which is down here, I'm probably gonna rank them together. I'm gonna put this in B, probably below both of these, and that's because to start out a fight, you can be disillusioned and catch a bunch of people off guard. It also gives you the access to Petrificus Totalis, which is, I'm going to just do it right now, an S tier spell. Obviously, Petrificus Totalis one-shots an enemy, or most enemies. You can't one-shot the bosses and certain assassins, I believe, but most enemies it will one-shot, and that is an incredibly good thing to do. So I'm gonna put the Disillusionment in B. I probably would have put it in C if it didn't give access to Petrificus Totalis. Wingardium Leviosa. Most people would think, oh, this should be another NA that goes with any of these. Maybe it should be D, maybe it should be C. However, I'm actually going to put Wingardium Leviosa as an A tier spell. Most of you people right now watching this are super confused, and I will try and explain. I watched a video on some certain tips and tricks. I'll put the clip in the video now so you can see how cool of a spell this is, but you can actually Wingardium Leviosa objects in a fight and drop them on top of people, and it is an incredibly entertaining thing and a hilarious watch. You can drop anvils on people's heads. At the end of a fight, if you're just one-on-one with a unit, use Wingardium Leviosa, hang someone off a cliff, and you can just throw them off. It is hilarious, and it will one-shot them. So it's an incredibly strong spell, even though it is not necessarily supposed to be used for combat. Wingardium Leviosa is going to be lower than Accio. Going from Wingardium Leviosa to Levioso. Levioso is, it's one of the stronger control spells. So I think I'm going to put it in A, and I'm going to put it in between Accio and Wingardium Leviosa. Levioso, when you use it with the talent edition, can basically CC 2 or 3 enemies, and you CC them for like a decent amount of time. It's really good in a combo. Oftentimes, the only way you're getting like large combos with someone in the air is using Levioso. I should also mention that Levioso has 6 enemies that in their tooltip says that they have an actual weakness to Levioso. I think it is quite a strong spell, and it belongs in the A tier. Arresto Momentum. Arresto Momentum is, I'm going to put Arresto Momentum in D. It's only got 2 weaknesses for enemies. It's kind of a mess spell. It doesn't actually stop the character. It just slows them down. I don't know. It just doesn't do that much for me. I also very rarely used it, again, unless I was getting a battle feat. So yeah, I'm going to put Arresto Momentum in D. Glacius. I really liked Glacius. I thought Glacius was a fun spell, especially when you combine it with Diffindo. It would do a lot of damage, and obviously it keeps whatever enemy that you hit it with completely stunned, which is a very important mechanic for obviously a certain amount of time, and then they would thaw out. Yeah, I'm gonna stick Glacius in the B rank. The final of the control spells is Transformation. This spell, once you upgrade it with the talent, is unbelievable. You can transform any enemy into a explosive barrel and then magic toss it at whoever you want and kill both parties. It's incredibly strong and obviously very good CC. Also, you can make the Poacher Animagus transform back into its human form, so you can actually kill it. So yeah, it definitely belongs in S. Now let's move on to the combat spells. The first spell in the list right here is Bombarda. It does a lot of damage and has 2 enemies that have a tooltip that they're weak to it. It also knocks people back and causes them to stagger, so it also has a little bit of crowd control in it. It can also explode the explosive barrels if you don't want to throw it at someone. I'm gonna put Bombarda really high B. Overall, spell does a lot of damage and does a little bit of crowd control. Ooh, maybe it does have a long cooldown. You know what? No, I'm gonna put it in A. The next spell is Confringo. Confringo is kind of interesting. I was thinking about putting Confringo in A because I used it quite a bit. If I compare it in terms of damage to most of the other damage spells, it's pretty low. However, the cooldown's low, and I think I have to put it in B. I'm kind of swapping where I put these two when I was first thinking about this list. Confringo obviously is fire damage, which is important. And when you upgrade it with the talent, it does projectile damage once it impacts the first enemy. You know what? No. We're doing this. They're both in B. They're average damage spells. I don't think that they're basically, to me, they're very similar. Obviously, Confringo's good for spiders. All fire damage is good against spiders. And Confringo's also great against Xeon Furious to obviously allow it to take damage. Oh man, I kind of want them both to be an A, realistically. You know what? I'm rechanging this. They're both going in A. They're like a ton of damage, and I think that's quite important. One of the other things that I should have mentioned earlier that may change my mind on a couple of these is part of the reason that Flipendo sits in B along with, and it should maybe actually go a little bit higher, is because when it's fully upgraded in terms of the talent, it also adds a curse to that player. It acts as if you curse them with Crucio. Do I have to move anything? I'm going to leave it here for now. This may go up a little bit, and I'll feel weird about that because I might have nothing in D. Or actually, Revelio can go in D eventually. This also adds a curse, so I'm going to actually move it up to the bottom of C, even though I don't really use the spell very much. It has added benefit when we get to the green spells at the end. So I'm going to leave this as is. I'm going to move this up. Flipendo also adds a curse, but that wasn't really what I used it for. I'm just going to leave it as is, and then I might go back and change a little bit. Right now, these are all in the middle, which is kind of funny. The next spell is Defindo. Defindo has to be high A. Defindo does quite a bit of damage, especially on weakened enemies. It does more damage than both of these. I'm moving these back down. I just can't do it. These are very high B. Defindo, when you upgrade its talent, can strike more than one enemy in a line, boatload of damage, and it's a very short cooldown, so you can just use it quite often. It was in my main set of spells when I played the game. Very, very strong spell. Expelliarmus. Expelliarmus does not do a ton of damage, does add a curse with a talent, but has the added benefit of taking a weapon out of an enemy's hands, especially all the loyalists, and then you can use your ancient magic throw to smack them with it. Once it takes away their weapon, they can no longer use the weapon, so makes enemies significantly weaker. I'm gonna put it middle of B here because it doesn't do a ton of damage by itself, but sets up quite a bit with other spells. Incendio, I'm going to put in C. I hate how short the range of Incendio is. It frustrates the crap out of me. I would so often try and Incendio an Infurious and would completely miss because it was barely out of range and it was like 20 feet away. Not even. It's good against spiders and does damage in a wave around you, which is nice. But I just found myself being so much farther away from enemies that this spell was pretty useless. So I'm going to put it in C. We're going to go into the essentials category. This one is Ancient Magic, obviously the #1 spell in the game, does a boatload of damage. You have, if you charge up your Ancient Magic meter, you can do 3 of them in a row or 4 of them in a row, I think. Obviously, unbelievable spell, S tier. It is the best skill in the game. Ancient Magic Throw, along with Ancient Magic, probably worse than, no, it's not. It's better than Petrificus Totalis because it breaks shields. You pick up items around the map and you throw them at people, including troll boulders and the bolts that the Loyalist Rangers shoot at you. You can shoot them back at them. It's awesome. It does a lot of damage. You can pick up, combined with this transformation, you can throw explosive barrels at people. You can just normally throw explosive barrels at people. Unbelievable spell, S tier. It's funny how most of these essential spells are S tier so far, other than Alohomora, which is not applicable. Basic Cast. Basic Cast is going to go here above the Disillusionment spell, and that's just because it's Basic Cast. Like, obviously it increases your Ancient Magic meter, increases your combos, but it just does the damage that it does. It's the basic spell. It gets blocked. Just basic, blah, B. Cool. Protego. Protego is the second best spell in the game, I believe. Protego, I guess I should probably also include Stupefy in here. Stupefy, along with Protego, are 2 of the most essential spells. Obviously, that's why these are all called essential spells. Protego obviously allows you to counterattack with your Stupefy. Stupefy itself adds Cursed, which is huge in later game fights. And yeah, Protego obviously is your block. When you perfect block things, you get a shockwave around you that knocks people down. It also sends projectiles when you perfect block. Unbelievable, unbelievable spell, and deserves to be the second highest in this whole list. Revelio, I'm going to put at D just so that I have something in D. No, not actually. It can actually set up your combat to be quite nice. If you are Revelioing all the time like I am, you will be able to see where all the enemies are, and that's quite important when you start out a fight, but that is the only reason you would use it for combat. Okay, now we get to the unforgivables. I'm gonna start with Crucio. I think Crucio's pretty meh. It's fine. I'm not gonna say it's terrible. It probably actually belongs with these offensive spells in the upper echelon of B. I'm gonna put it in the first slot in B. It obviously curses enemies, and as we get to Avada Kedavra later, having an enemy be cursed allows them to share damage. So all cursed enemies share damage. So it does more damage in general in the fight. It's a pretty long cooldown for not doing a ton of damage other than cursing someone. And with its talent, will spread curse when you hit a cursed person with your basic attack after they've been cursed. The Imperious Curse, I think, is quite good. It's probably, yeah, I think it might be the top of I'm gonna put it in S tier, actually. The Imperious Curse obviously allows you to control an enemy. To switch an enemy to your side is an incredibly powerful spell. It is its own kind of form of crowd control, which is really quite good, and I believe that it should stay in S. Plus, the enemy that has switched sides will also cause curses to anyone it attacks, which is also really, really good. And then finally, Avada Kedavra. I think most people would rank Avada Kedavra as an S tier because it one-shots most units. I am actually not. I'm gonna put it at all the way the top of A. I don't think it's an S tier spell because of its cooldown. That is really the only negative, and when used correctly won't matter, because on Avada Kedavra's upgraded talent, any cursed enemy will die if a cursed enemy is hit with an Avada Kedavra, which is incredibly strong. You can spread curse throughout like an entire fight, then Avada Kedavra, and just kill everybody, which obviously can be unbelievably strong. However, if you use it and you've only gotten like 2 people cursed, you're just sitting there waiting for like an entire minute for this cooldown to pop back up. It's obviously quite powerful and will one-shot most units that aren't bosses, but the cooldown is just way too long. I think that's my list right now. The best spell in the game for me, 100%, Ancient Magic. So yeah, I said this earlier in the video. If you agree with what I said, if you don't agree with what I said, please let me know. I would love to hear everyone's opinions on the spells in this game. I hope you enjoyed this tier ranking of the spells in Hogwarts Legacy. I'll see you in the next one.